All right. How's everybody doing? We're going to get started.
Hey there.
Good afternoon.
I see we're live already.
Yeah, I just figured let's go. I haven't started recording yet though.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're a little bit early today, just waiting, see everybody getting in.
Okay.
How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good.
Peaceful? Was it peaceful?
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry, you cut out for a sec.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with this particular headset. I'm going to go get myself a decent microphone.
I think I'm going to change my background.
What is that, like Switzerland?
No, this is Alaska.
Alaska. Nice.
Yeah, I think this is Alaska.
Some point
this is Antarctica. Oh, maybe Machu Picchu. Why not?
There you go. Hey, Jan. Hey, Wendy. All right. Well, let's get started. We figured one of the things that people can spend some of this downtime, if you have it, because what we know is that your workload is going in waves. And depending upon when you had somebody booked and when they're making a decision to cash in for a deposit or a refund or reschedule, we know it's all over the place, but we know that there's these peaks and valleys. So in those valleys, we're hoping that you will be spending some time thinking about how you can refresh content to better target your business towards your ideal clients, to set yourself up for that time when we start hitting that top of the slope, when hopefully travel is something people will be doing in larger numbers. And testimonials are definitely a part of that. So we're going to go over a presentation today. We're not going to spend as much time on the pandemic as we have in past weeks, because frankly, none of the new research out there is saying anything new. Of course, as we always say, the pandemic drives everything. So please, a reminder at the beginning of every single call. I think I said this on last week's call. I was on the phone 2 weeks ago with a very prominent member of our industry, and he said to me that they are updating their cash flow and their income statements every 2 days. So money's coming in, money that was supposed to come in isn't coming in. They look at another batch of expenses. They are constantly looking at their cash flow statement. If you have not done this yet and you would like a refresher, please let me know, and I will set up a private call with you to go through the tools, and I can kind of walk you through it if you haven't used it yet. The agenda, like I said, very quickly, we're going to go through what the current narrative arc is for COVID-19. And we're really going to dive into what does it mean to gather a great testimonial versus a testimonial that kind of just lays there. Nothing new really much on this front, except for the fact that we are starting to see, remember how we said, look, there's a narrative arc, but there are different lines for different states, for different regions, for different countries, for different continents. There are different flows of how the stay-at-home orders are either being released, what the pandemic situation is like in each country. And in fact, as I'm showing you here, in the state of New York, we're talking about possibly having upstate New York, which is a lot more rural. I live kind of in an exurb of New York City. And my experience here in this exurb is quite a bit different than my friends living in Elmhurst, Queens. My friends living in Nassau County, a much more densely populated area that's had quite a bit of anxiety and unfortunately suffering. Further north and further west of here, it's been less surreal. So we're already seeing that with Governor Cuomo. And, he is going to start releasing what those restrictions look like for restaurants, for retail stores. And hopefully what we can do is see by these experiments or these, whatever you want to call them, what is the impact on the arc. So we have been seeing some major changes in what suppliers are starting to think about. So they're dropping hints about what their safety measures are going to be. We are hearing some things about different regions that our clients would like to travel to. Not as much on the pricing side. We're seeing some fantastic deals for some products, but I kind of find, I don't know about you, Myrna, I kind of find pricing to be meaningless right now for most clients.
I agree, and I'm starting to see some promotions, not very many, but in any event, the pricing, the promotions are not like anything crazy. They're kind of like the stuff you would normally see at wave season. So it's not, haven't seen anything that's like, oh my God, this is an amazing deal. People need to jump on this. And then the other side is what you mentioned. I don't think my clients are really ready to book anything yet, regardless of the price, because there's too much uncertainty about some of these things. And you have to remember, I deal with people that are traveling abroad. And so we still have, even if the lockdown in New York and
lifts
in
for us.
lifts, that doesn't mean that we can go to Europe. So yeah.
Yep. So what have we seen this week? Well, I grabbed this photo from a friend of mine who works at a hotel. I believe this is like a Hampton Inn. And I don't know if you can make it out, but they've already installed plexiglass at the check-in stations at the front desk. So here's a hotel trying to protect its employees. You can see the lines on the floor. I guess, for the most part, people are saying, stand behind these lines unless you actually have to make some kind of transaction with your credit card. So we are starting to see some impacts. Delta Airlines has talked about immunity passports, but I got to tell you, there's been a lot of cross information from the CDC and the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, about a immunity passport. So if you hear this phrase, there are countries and some suppliers who have been thinking, well, if somebody has the antibodies, are they less likely to be a carrier? The CDC has come out explicitly saying there is no evidence, and the WHO has come out the same way. There is no evidence that somebody who has the antibodies, which means that they had the virus and they've recovered, that gives any indication about immunity. So if you're hearing about things like what the CEO at Delta, Mr. Bastian, said,
Yeah, my husband works in safety, and so he has been really interested in this too. And so we've been like reading everything that comes out about this supposed immunity. And yeah, although a lot of people are still talking about it like, oh yeah, this is going to help. But the truth is that there's no real evidence that the fact that you got it before means you won't get it again, or that you can't spread it to other people.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing, and I mean that, the only good thing about the situation that we're in right now is now that the curve is starting to bend or plateau, it's giving researchers a chance to take these data sets and across, I mean, there's 2 million people now in the world who are confirmed cases, and start looking at these data sets and trying to match up information like, antibodies, like did they come back a second time with the virus, coming back as positive with the virus. So, we're starting to wrap our heads around this. The WHO had their Monday press conference today, and they were talking a little bit about this. And they said there are many studies going on. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have an understanding about what that means. Because, if somebody doesn't necessarily, if they have the antibodies, but have not had the virus again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything because they might not have been exposed to it. Here's an interesting thing. So I saw this on a private group that I'm in for travel advisors. A Disney resort is now saying it's required that you will complete check-in online and go direct to your room on arrival. So for any of you who sell Disney, you can see Disney's already been talking. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how the CEO, Mr. Iger, was saying that you could probably expect to see temperatures taken at each park. There may be other elements that they'll do to try to understand who's coming to the park, but to minimize interaction, perhaps you will no longer go to a front desk at a Disney resort. So some other little tidbits that are coming out. And then finally, Italy announced, or not they announced, but the prime minister was quoted in a Italian publication over the weekend saying that they are going to start loosening up travel within Italy only for Italian citizens and local residents. First locally, and then they're going to try to start expanding outwards towards regionally. I heard a rumor, Myrna, that Italy may be closed to outside travelers until December 31st of this year. Meaning,
I heard the same thing, but no confirmation yet.
Yeah, yeah. So again, when we talk about the arc of the pandemic, just because we may be loosened up if Italy says, no, you're not allowed in, that's going to impact your ability to sell to market travel if Italy's a big part of your portfolio. So let's talk about testimonials, because this is one thing you can control. And Myrna and I have been trying to focus on giving you things that you can do when you've got those valleys where the activity is not busy, that you can concentrate on, and then try to give you some worksheets so that you try to hold yourself accountable and actually go and do something with what you learn on the Mondays. So my experience in 4 years examining travel advisor websites, watching you on social media, is that for the most part, we have good testimonials in this industry. Good testimonials might speak about one or more of the 4 bullet points here. They might say that so-and-so is a great travel advisor, or so-and-so helped me find the best deal, or I would not have been able to experience something without their expertise. But this tends to be what a lot of those testimonials look like, beyond expectations in every aspect of the arrangements. Okay, if I am a potential client who stumbles upon your website and I see this testimonial, someone's praising you, but I really don't have any more detail around why is your service beyond expectations. So I'm either forced to kind of click around to other testimonials or go to your services page to see, what exactly does this person seem to do that's so extraordinary? So what we want to do is kind of fill that out. Here's another couple of testimonials that I pulled off of a web page. And when you read this, there's natural questions. We had the most amazing trip ever. Why was it the most amazing trip ever? The variety of experiences, like what? What did you do that was so special? Tell me a little bit more about what these experiences were. And then finally, when people start to say, wow, all the accommodations were perfect, and look at all these things that we did. Those are opportunities, if you had a hand in that, to pull more information out into a testimonial. And we're going to go over the process and then some thoughts about what you're looking for so that you can then go use the worksheets that'll be loaded up at the Facebook group page. You can download those and then start to play with them a little bit. Start to think about your process for reaching out over the next few weeks to see if you can pull some great testimonials. So great testimonials, like most things that you hear me talk about, really follow a narrative arc. And I'll go over one example in a couple of minutes, but this is the way that people think naturally. This is the way people engage naturally. And just to let you know, we've got a message from Joan. Hi, Joan. I read something earlier today indicating that there are 2 strains of the virus, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And there's some thought that this possibility may explain why Europe seems to have been hit much harder. I've not heard that yet, but I have heard from doctors and epidemiologists that they do believe this particular virus mutates quicker than previous viruses. So I have heard that, Joan. Thank you for that. Great testimonials engage you in a shorter journey. So it's words in sentences, sometimes in paragraphs, and we'll talk about how different platforms afford you the ability to do a little bit more, whether it's visually or with words, but they engage you in a short journey of your own. And once you can see yourself in that journey, if, for example, I'm dating a woman and I'm looking for a travel advisor who, can put together a wonderful weekend, 4-day weekend in Paris for me, somebody who says I'm an expert at Paris, okay. But somebody who's got testimonials where there are people, couples who've gone to Paris and had wonderful experiences that I'm looking to have, now you've got me into that engagement level. So you're going to use the storytelling fundamentals that we've talked about on other presentations and some of the presentations that we do when Myrna and I speak publicly. Descriptive scenes. Don't just say I was in Paris. If you can talk about a special place in Paris that might be evocative to somebody, and they know, that's where you had your pictures taken, was in, Place Vendôme, or that beautiful plaza that's across the Seine from the Eiffel Tower. Conflict and tension. This was big during the pandemic. February and March, a lot of travelers were stuck in certain places, and so many of you, did something above and beyond the call of duty to bring people home. That conflict and tension triggers things in our brain that make us want to hear, what's the outcome? Did you get them home? They're praising you because you went an extra 9 yards for them, and we all want happy endings. So some simple storytelling fundamentals that as you start to think about your clients and testimonials, you can start to incorporate them. And then finally, testimonials for testimonial's sake is not what Myrna and I advocate. We want you to think about your business, about the services that you specifically offer, the suppliers, the destinations, the styles of travel. And we want you to focus first on testimonials in those areas, because if that's what even with the pandemic, that's what is going to drive that cash flow statement, then we want enough of those words built up on your homepage, in your blog, on your testimonials page. The more that those phrases keep appearing that are specific to those suppliers, the type of client that you're looking to bring in, the expertise and value that you bring to the table, the more that you double down on that, the better your SEO is going to be, and the more likely for certain things you're going to appear high up. It was interesting. Just for the heck of it, I went and did some Googling before this call today, and I did some very specific long tail keywords, and there were 5 or 6 travel agencies pages which appeared on the first SERP that were not big agencies. They're not agencies dumping a lot of money into marketing and SEO, but they're doing what they do wisely, and as a result, they're rising higher to the top. So again, depending upon your marketing strategy, how you're looking to bring in new clients, definitely you want to double down on your areas of specialty. So we introduced Jane, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but Jane is going to be our mock travel advisor for the next couple of weeks, so that we can always relate to a type of business that hopefully is something you're aspiring to. Like we said, hopefully she's doing $750,000 a year. She's been in business long enough that she's not ready to jump just because of the pandemic. And, she does a premium style of travel. It's not necessarily luxury, but it's definitely better priced or higher priced than contemporary travels, contemporary cruises, or, lower end tour companies. No, she's up at the very least, the higher middle end. And let's just say, for argument's sake, 45% of her business is ocean cruise and 45% is FIT. So what's her process? First of all, we always want you to go back to your CRM. If you're using your CRM properly and you're documenting contact information, if you're, depending upon where your bookings reside and how you're moving it over to your CRM, some of you are on Sabre, so a lot of this is in there already, depending upon how you book. Depending upon your host agency's platform, it might all be in one place. But what we want you to do is start to create a funnel of your own that says, look, the people who love me the most look like this. Therefore, they're the most likely to accept an approach from me, and this is what we said about triaging your communications, the getting emails out and phone calls, is that's the group that loves you the most. And hopefully your confidence that they love you so much, plus the fact that they have come back to you at least one, 2 times, should give you the ability to feel confident to reach out to them. So the same thing for testimonials. So what we like to ask you to do is, for people who are purchasing in the last year, that's probably your primary focus for sort of, I don't want to call them passive aggressive, but active outreach. And then, from there, if that's not a big enough pool, you can go maybe the last 2 years. And what you want to do is you want to try to look at those bookings and understand, who was that person? If you don't remember them quickly, try to understand who they were. What was their trip? Do you remember anything about what you did for them? Do you follow them on social, and you can easily go find the posts from that trip? Because what we want you to do is educate yourself about those people, and then start handpicking the first group of clients that you want to reach out to ask for testimonials. And you've got to reduce the friction, because it is an ask on your part. You're asking them to do something for you. So that's why we say that advanced knowledge, that research. So when you call them, you can prompt them to remember something. You can say, I remember that you sent me a lovely note afterwards saying it was the best trip that you've ever had to Paris. I want to try to find out why, both for my own business purposes, but if you don't mind, so that I can write a testimonial and get you to approve it later on. You want to review, like I said, any of their social media posts, because if you've got that already, you may already have the photos that you were looking for to accompany any visual needs that you have. Plus, that may jog your memory some. And then you may have to be prepared to write it for them. As you saw on the average testimonials a couple of pages back, not everybody's a good writer. And when people try to write what you need and want, they're going to be less apt to be able to do that for you in a powerful, compelling narrative. So we kind of want to reduce the friction as much as possible, and remind yourself that, phone for those top 50, email for the 200 if you also want to check in with them via email. But make sure that you're not doing this in a passive way. This is an active activity with a subject heading on an email in the outreach that is kind and considerate, and using all of those messaging tools that we've talked about during this crazy time. Hey, Tracy, how are you? Okay, so where is your story in all of this? Because you're not just looking for information. You're not just looking to tell a story. You want stories that talk about the added value that you brought, whether it was through upgrades that your supplier contacts had, special insider access to museums from some of your local DMCs, DMOs, how you maximize their experience because you knew something about the restaurants near the hotel that you love to book romantic couples in. That's all about your unique aspects, your unique attributes, your skills, your experience from all those years of traveling on fam trips. And we want to project that out through these great stories of clients who've worked with you and you've delivered fantastic value. And then finally, like I said, we always want to look for those high tension, possibly, conflict oriented experiences where you came in and saved the day. I think I told this story at the very beginning of this whole sequence of lessons about a friend of mine who does destination weddings. And she told me the story about how her client was hedging her bet. This was all the way back at the beginning of March when things were still uncertain and restrictions were not in place yet. And 2 days before, the travel advisor friend of mine and the client, the bride, finally made a decision. And now they had 48 hours to unwind this whole thing, protect the bride's investment, protect the investments of all of the travelers who were going to this destination wedding. She's got a fantastic testimonial from this individual. There are some complications involved that's prevented her from writing it, but that's what you're looking for. Those moments where you were taking phone calls at 9 o'clock at night when you were brushing your teeth, getting ready for bed. that you were, finagling with the airlines to not have your client pay $2,000 for a one-way ticket back from Dusseldorf because, your client said, oh my goodness, I heard there's travel restrictions. I won't be able to get home if I don't leave tomorrow. And the airline wasn't going to necessarily accommodate them except unless they paid a premium fare. But yet you worked some magic. Those events over the last couple of months are golden. So as you look through that group of 50 people who've traveled with you in the last 6 to 12 months, if you have any of those stories, that's about your service levels, your belief systems as a person who takes care of people. We know that this pandemic is going to be with us in varying degrees over the next 12 months, maybe longer is what we're hearing from the epidemiologists. That means that a travel advisor whose service levels are higher quality, higher touch, come from the root of your being, you have a much more powerful value proposition to attract new clients, to get referrals, and to have existing clients remind themselves of why they've booked with you in the past. Myrna, did you have any instances that kind of were like this?
I did. I got a nice note and a bottle of wine from a client a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, everybody has those stories. I mean, my clients were on a Regent cruise. They were booked to leave like February 16th, somewhere around there. And Regent did not cancel the cruise. So even though we knew this was in Asia, that's where their cruise was, we just kind of said, okay, let's just go and hope for the best. So they went on the pre-cruise. While they were on pre-cruise, we found out that the end port was now going to be diverted from Hong Kong to the Philippines. So I changed all their stuff, all their flights. And this was two couples. Then they go off on the cruise. And then I got a frantic text message Thursday night. I was at an event drinking champagne. I was totally not working. But all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up, and it was them. They're like, "Oh my God, we're landing in Bangkok. They're making us get off the ship Saturday, and we have to go home." And yeah, guess what I did? I sobered up real quick, and I had Delta on one phone. I had my air department on the other line. They were helping. One of the clients had booked the air through Largay, my host agency. The other one had booked it herself with her frequent flyer. Anyway, Delta, thank God, was really easy to deal with, but it took several hours to get flights, and there was change fees and all kinds of shenanigans. Luckily, Regent reimbursed them for everything. It was just a matter of me making it happen. But what they told me was that everyone on the ship was freaking out, of course, because they just all got notice of this at the same time. And the other couple that traveled with them, the ones that booked at Costco, I did not work on their flights. They had to do it themselves. So they said, yeah, everybody's freaking out, the internet's crashing because everyone's trying to get on their computer. So he actually just picked up the phone and called me on that really expensive ship phone, and just, it's like, okay, here's what's happening. And I said, no worries, I'm gonna take care of it. I'll email you everything. And the next morning they woke up and everything was done, I
mean, if you can get a client to help you tell that story that Myrna just said, and get you a couple of money quotes, we rested so well that night knowing Myrna was handling it all. We woke up in the morning and we weren't surprised an iota that our bookings were ready, our rescheduled flights were ready, and our friends were still struggling. Mm-hmm. Think about how that story makes somebody go, why would I ever do this myself? God forbid we have, a second rise of the pandemic. They're talking about a W now, not necessarily a U that sort of bends, but we may have a little blip because we're seeing that in Singapore. We're seeing that in Japan, that they loosened up restrictions. Cases have started to rise again, and now that may cause some restrictions to come back. I've got a great travel advisor who's going to have my back. I want to go on that vacation. I'm really not that worried, but I know it's better that I book with Myrna than try to do this myself.
Yep, that was the lesson learned. I mean, I think for a lot of people that just, oh, I can do it myself. What could go wrong? I'll book my own flights. It's fine. Go do it. But then when something goes wrong, you have to deal with it yourself.
Not me. So, what story are you looking for? And this is where we start to get into the actual script that you will use when you're speaking to the client. So obviously, before you even call or email them, you've already sort of written their name on our worksheet. Who is that client? It's John Doe and his wife, Mary. What happened to them? You may know a little bit, but you need more detail. When did they get in touch with you? Now, you see how that's the beginning of the story arc? The traveler is either getting ready to leave, or they're in transit, or they were just about to come home. You've got that beginning of a narrative. And then all of a sudden, you're engaged. Well, what did you do for them? And don't just say, I rebooked their flights. Because rebooking their flights and being Myrna Arroyo and having to sit on the phone with Delta for 3 hours while somebody did not have that option, sitting on a pricey landline from a cruise ship, 14 hours away, that's not the same thing. I rescheduled their flights for them. So that's why we keep asking you, go deeper, go deeper. This is like a story. If I told you that, there were these little furry creatures that lived in Hobbit land and they defeated Sauron, no, there's so much more to the story than that. We want you to think of your stories the same way.
Yeah, exactly. So they were, because of the time difference, right? They were in Bangkok. I was here in the US. So, I mean, they were basically, I think, leaving on an excursion. And because they knew that I was handling this, they went on their excursion. And when they got back, everything was in their email, in their phone app. They had their new flights, their new numbers. But no, that's true. And it is hard to get this out of clients. Believe me, I know. I've tried. Sometimes it's better if you interview them.
Yes.
And then you write all your notes, then write it and then send it to them to say, okay, rather than you try to get them to just like make up like a lot. They're just, now some of them, I have some clients that are great storytellers that have written me amazing testimonials, but most of them are not. So you kind of have to do it for them.
Yes.
And the interview format works really well. And you could even do it in a video, like in a video chat, kind of like this, and then just listen to it later and then build the story. And if you can use some of the clips from the video chat, that would be awesome.
Yep. We record all the time, as we're recording right now for our colleagues who aren't able to get on this call. So yeah, Zoom meeting, you just hit the record button. You've got 45 minutes on the free account to interview them, and then you can go back and listen to the audio portion of it. Focus in on your special knowledge, on your special contacts. If you have a BDM at Regent who did something even extra for that couple, that set up their transfers, special transfers because the wife had heart issues or something and they didn't want to take the regular tour bus back to the airport or whatever, if you can open up about that, if that's permitted, you want to show your unique attributes for your business. And then finally, as we get to the end of the story, we want those happy endings. What was the solution? What was the resolution? And now, how does this testimonial fit in the grander scheme of what you personally stand for and what your agency stands for? And that's kind of how you tie it all together in a bow. And you'll see you will do this differently depending upon which platforms you're going to use. And we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so we're going to focus on websites, email, and social. There's a lot of overlap with how you can tell a testimonial on each of these platforms, but because people are going to different places for different reasons, and because there are limitations and opportunities on each of these platforms, the way that testimonial comes to life is going to be a little different in each place. The facts remain the same, but how much of the facts you can disclose, how you grab a person's attention so that they read the testimonial, depending upon where you position it on your website, that now is going to cause you to think a little bit differently. So there are three strategic places on your website homepage. A lot of people, they'll get to your homepage and they'll scroll. And if they scroll down below the fold and they see 3 quotes from 3 extremely happy clients, and those quotes are based around your value proposition, and they were looking for someone like that. They were looking for someone who's willing to work 24/7, even if I'm stuck in Southeast Asia. If that's what they were looking for, and 2 out of those 3 quotes say something like, I'm so grateful I booked with Myrna. I know she was up, late past midnight when she saved us on our cruise. You can shorten it down, and now all of a sudden that's about your 24/7 service promise. Or maybe it's about, hopefully pandemic won't be ruling the roost for too much longer, but maybe it is about someone who helps you find those incredible personal moments that make the whole trip, a romantic, anniversary trip to Paris, make it come to life. So maybe 2 out of the 3 quotes that are, set up on your webpage, that's what they look like. It depends on your service brand. It depends on what you're trying to project out to the universe and how you're hoping those people will then stay, click to view more. But homepage, short, sweet, to the point. Of course, you can go a lot different on a blog. And that blog may be about, let's say you were to write a blog about how you worked so hard during the early months of the pandemic. So maybe you've got 2 testimonials buried in there that are about 2 different clients and what you did for them. You can go much further now. You can expand that testimonial to 4 or 5 paragraphs. And now you're not just quoting them, you're mixing their quotes with something of a narrative in those paragraphs. And you can say, they may have only known that you stayed up late, and you can say, I didn't get back to sleep for 2 days or whatever. You can add the narrative that's specific to you that they didn't say. And then finally, everybody should have a testimonials page. Having a couple of quotes on the homepage is great. Occasionally or frequently bringing case studies and testimonials into your blog that talk about your service proposition is great. But having a place where people can go is always, and in the language that you use in those testimonials is always a good thing. And there you can also get a little more expansive. For the website, text is primary because Google is scraping web pages, and they're looking for who gets authority, who speaks about an issue over and over and over again. Okay, that they've got more content narrowly focused on that long tail search phrase. And that, is why text is primary. Good pictures are great, but really on your website, it's mostly about text. Okay, emails. So now this is a great way for you that if you didn't have content, you're struggling to come up with content, but you have a couple of great testimonials and you flesh them out. There's no reason why, depending upon how often you're emailing, that you can include a testimonial in there, and you present it in a way, again, that talks about, just want to, let you know about a couple that I took care of in Southeast Asia, hoping that, what you'll take away from this story is the value that I create by being there for you 24/7. You can figure out ways to open that up. Now, in an email, right now I would organize around themes. So perhaps the most prescient thing is the saves that you had in February and March. But it could also be about the value that you add because of 20 years in the business, 7 years in the business. And I've trained BDMs in the cruise industry when they first get hired, and that's why they are loyal to me and they'll do favors for me. So you could do themes like, this is me, this is how long I've been doing this, and as a result, when you book with me, you get the benefit of all of my generosity back out to the industry because they know they've got to take care of me. It could be about the value that you deliver through expertise and experience. You could write about for couples, planning their 25th wedding anniversary, don't just think about seeing the beautiful sights. Think about, where your hotel is positioned and, what are you trying to accomplish while you're there? And that's what I do. I package the whole thing for couples looking to have a romantic time away. So you could organize it around that kind of theme. And now that's your newsletter. Dreaming of anniversary vacations again or something like that. The subject heading, and now you talk a little bit about that, and then you talk about a client that had an incredible experience because of you, and that's the way that testimonial gets built into your email. Again, in an email, an attractive email is important, but text is primary, and you've got to grab me at the beginning. So that means that the subject of the email, the heading, you've really got to try to be creative with that to get people to open. Joan has been doing a phenomenal job with her emails. I'm subscribing to Joan McGee-Qualls' newsletter, and her openings are really great, and she gets me into the story quickly by what she says. And we call that the hook. When you read a newspaper story, if I don't grab you in that first paragraph with that headline, odds are you're not going to get down to the 5 or 6 paragraphs where the real meat of my story is. So you've got to grab them up top. Visuals are a supporting actor again with emails. They opened it because you grabbed them with words. The first group of words brought them in further, but now that those visuals can play a strong role. And then finally, there's 2 different strategies that I use with email marketing. One is that it's a teaser over to your website. And some people are really good at this, where they'll give 5 paragraphs of really interesting starting, and then they'll have the ellipse, the ... and now you've got to click to go to the website, because we want your clients to go to your website. We want to see them shopping around, to eyeballing other things that draw them deeper into the sales funnel with you. Or you could do the whole story with a compelling call to action. That's another strategy. Different things work for different people. I'm not going to say one or the other is more effective. If somebody's just looking to be entertained, the teaser may be enough. If somebody is really ideating about travel again, and you caught them with this case study, they may be very compelled to click on a call to action that says, find some time on my calendar to talk about travel. Doesn't have to be book travel, but to talk about travel.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is try to keep just one call to action on every email. Yes. One primary call to action. I mean, it's okay to put something in the signature line, like in the PS, you could put a secondary one, but your email should really have one goal. And then that goal will be whatever the call to action. So if the goal is to get them to your website to read the whole story, then that's the goal. If the goal is to book a call, put a book a call button. But a lot of times I see, that's just a common issue I see with newsletters, is that you'll have like all these different topics, and then each paragraph has a different call to action. And that just kind of dilutes the effectiveness of the piece.
And it can feel like clutter. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always try to make every email really just about one thing and not have a lot of extraneous sections, it just adds clutter, like Richard said.
So the last way that you can market your testimonials, and I'm going to use that word, market your testimonials, is via social. And social, of course, it's shorter attention spans. People are scrolling quickly. They want a quick hit. They want some endorphins in their brain or some eye candy of destinations. So you're working with less shelf space here. And I'm going to go back to it wasn't even meant as a testimonial. I guess it kind of was. Barbara was writing about a client that she saved during the early days of the pandemic. She used a New York Times story that was the grabber. And you've got this headline from the New York Times: stranded abroad, conflict, tension. Immediately I'm getting the whole thing. I've got 2 people with masks on their faces, and clearly they're walking somewhere where the pandemic is shutting down a place that they've been traveling to. What a great combination. It is a scroll stopping visual. She used, I think, about 400 words in there, and then the comments took off. She engaged people, and all of a sudden people were saying, they were either praising her for having done that for them in the past, or they were asking about the issues that were addressed in her per testimonial. So, you could have a call to action link that maybe goes to the blog post. So you don't have to write the whole thing there, enough to get the story out, the teaser. You could link them to the testimonials page, for this and more. You can hear what some of my other clients had to go through. Or there could be a specific landing page, like we said. The call to action in a social media post could be, if you're thinking about 2021 travel and you'd like a great travel advisor as your advocate and on your side, click here. So you can play with the testimonial in a shorter approach when it comes to text. But visuals, you're going to do it on Instagram or Facebook, that visual is so critical.
Or video. If you can get a video of your client saying how great you are, that would be like the best thing.
So at some point in the next couple of weeks, I'm just going to do sort of a primer on how to use video. Because yes, video is definitely where it's skyrocketing right now, YouTube usage. People are at home, they're on their phones, and they'll engage with a 90-second, 120-second video. Again, the headline is your hook. You've maybe pushed them there from a social media post. And now all of a sudden they're at your YouTube channel and you've got 3 or 4 testimonials from people personally saying, if it wasn't for Joan, oh my God, I don't know what I would have done. Think about how powerful those narratives can be. A little more difficult having someone else do that. You're going to have to interview them. And what I would tell you to do in that particular situation is do a prep session first, where you're at the very least talking to them in advance and saying, hey, would you be willing to do this? Yeah, I would. Okay, can we get on a Zoom meeting so the 2 of us can talk? Sure. And now you walk them through the script. So tell me again, it was March the 3rd? No, it was March the 6th. Oh, that's right. Now you're priming them so that when they actually say it, it's easier for them because they've literally walked through it a day or 2 ago. So
yeah, it's harder to get those. I mean, and you do need to, you need to prep your client. You need somebody to edit it. It's not as easy to get, but it's incredibly powerful because not only can you put those on your YouTube channel, you could also put them on your Facebook page. You can stick them on your website. I mean, they're really useful and everybody loves video. So, I mean, it's the most powerful. It's just takes a little more prep and a little more effort to get a good quality testimonial on video.
And you may find that prep session on Zoom meeting, you realize that they stumble too much and they just don't know how to tell a story. It could be that you'll actually do the videotaping and you don't really walk away with much.
Not everybody's good at that, but you'll know like which clients, like when you talk to your clients, I mean, if you're on a Zoom call with them and if you'll be able to pick up if they're going to come across well on video or not. And then I wouldn't even ask if it doesn't look like they're like really up for it. But if you have younger clients who are used to posting videos on social all the time, they love to do this, So those of you that have millennials as clients, get them to do. A lot of them are better at video than we are. So
to that point, the best client testimonial I've seen in 4 years that I've been back in the travel industry was my friend Nancy, who owns this travel agency in Astoria. She had 2 millennials who were on, I think it was their honeymoon trip, and I think it may have been the Maldives or something. It was somewhere like that. It was an over-the-water bungalow resort. And at some point they did something and she said, hey, would you guys be willing to do a testimonial for me? And these 2 kids literally did the open the door. Hi, welcome to our over the water bungalow. And the husband was filming the wife. And they were walking through the place going, oh my God, Nancy, this is so wonderful. I'm so glad you suggested this. Have you seen the pool, the little, wading pool that we've got? And these 2 kids did such a great job. And I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes long, but I was captivated. I'm like, these kids are like actors and actresses. So it does depend on who your clients are. And you kind of, if you're following them on social, you may have a really great hint about whether or not they're good for video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
So that's just sort of the high level of how to do this. At some point, Myrna and I are going to start building out much deeper lessons about all of this material as we move deeper into the pandemic. So stay tuned for that news. We'll see when we get there, but we'll give you a heads up before we launch that program. The homework is really simple. Again, we're going to build worksheets for you that are easy to use. Print them out, get out a pencil or pen, and start jotting down notes to yourself, and try to set a date on the calendar where you're going to activate these worksheets. So they're very simple. And like I said, homework is always keep plotting your cash flow. Like I said, this very important friend of mine, every 2 days, he's going into his cash flow statement every 2 days. So, different case, your best case, your worst case, know what that looks like, because ultimately you're here to make money. You're not here just to have wonderful testimonials. But let's talk about maybe just choosing your first 4 clients. Let's take a bite size of that 50 clients who've booked with you in the last 12 months. And as you can see on the worksheet at the top, let's say we look for people who were supposed to travel in February and March. So maybe there are a couple of clients in there that you can quickly highlight, think to yourself, oh, wait a second, they were going to cancel before the cruise line did, and I saved them $4,000. Start jotting those notes down, put the name down, and then think further back the last 12 months. And obviously the last 12 months is more about your value proposition. Why do people book travel with you? Those clients that were before the pandemic, it's more about your expertise, your skills, your service belief systems, your supplier contacts. So try to pull together like 8 clients or if you only want to do, 2 clients on one row and 2 clients on the other, but start to jot that down. Think of someone, because you want to now reach out to them. You want to set that out. And so what I did was the second worksheet, and this workbook will be a PDF loaded up maybe later on tonight, and this could be something you actually create the content over the next 2 weeks. First, let's identify the clients, and then let's set up the scripting and the calls and the emails to try to pull them into a session with you where you can fill out the content. But again, what are we thinking about? What's the attention grabber for your email? What's the attention grabber in the quote? What's the attention grabber for your social? We want to think about these core themes. So maybe, pandemic is a core theme. When there's a crisis, I'm available to you 24/7. I'm your advocate with the people who you've actually purchased the travel from. I'm there to do that for you. So you're thinking about all those different themes. We want to think as much as we can about tension and conflict. And some trips have multiple instances. Yes, not only did we have an issue with their cruise, but we also had an issue with their flights. So I had to work on 2 major things for them because they had excursions to cancel or something. I don't know. So you want to jot those down and know what those tension moments were. Because now, how did you resolve it? What did you do? What was unique to you? What's unique to your service value promise? That this is how you got this done. And then finally, think about whether or not there's a call to action. If it's an email, like Myrna said, the call to action is, are you dreaming about 2021? If so, I'm around. I'm free for a call. Or it could be a call to action. Read more about how I took care of my clients. This email only tells you one story. I had 6. Come over to my testimonials page. The call to action is click here. Think about, because you don't want to just tell a story. You want to engage them in a behavior that draws them deeper into your sales funnel. So now they're aware of you because you sent them something. You told them a great story. You've engaged them now because now they're thinking, oh, wow, this person's really special. If these people had this major problem and she solved it, I kind of want to be aligned with somebody like that. And now potentially, they're considering vacationing again because of their specific situation. Now you've started to push them down that sales funnel. Myrna, anything else?
Nope, I think that's good.
Okay. So I'm not sure what time we're at. I don't have my glasses.
Looks like 10 till 4. So we're at 50 minutes.
So I'm going to wrap this up. My offer still stands. If you want to email me at richard@travelbusinessmastermind.com, I am open to setting up a 30-minute session with you. If you've already got a great story and you want to pull those worksheets out, have them ready. You want to set up a call with me. I'm happy to sort of listen to what you know about the story to set you up for success when you call the client or when you email them. I'm more than happy to help you activate that. And give you a 30-minute complimentary session to kind of think you through that storytelling process just to get you started, because we want to get you out there. We want to get these testimonials up, because let's all be optimistic that by July or August, and that's optimistic right now, by July or August, maybe there'll be more states that are open and more industries will be working again. And people will have, like we said on the last call, that people will have gone to a restaurant, come home, and 2 weeks later, they're not COVID positive and they're starting to gain their confidence. We want to have you set up so that as all of that starts to chip away at the fear and anxiety, and hopefully that didn't have too much financial strain, you're already there for them and they're starting to think about you.
Yeah. And the key is definitely stay in touch. Like, don't go quiet with your email newsletter. Don't stop posting on your social, because this will end. We don't know when, but it will end eventually. And even if you're like me and most of your clients travel abroad and you're looking at more like October, November, maybe, if possible, people can travel again. You don't want people to forget you exist, which they will if you stop communicating. So our advice is to keep communicating, get these testimonials, because even if you don't have them, if you're not really using them for sales right now, they're awesome assets that you need in your marketing arsenal for when things open back up again. Yep. So even if you just post them on your website, they're going to help you. Yeah. Because people are still surfing the web and they're still finding websites, and people are coming to your website randomly looking for stuff. It's not that we're out there promoting travel, but that content will get found if you have it on your website and you have some basic SEO stuff, which we can talk about another time. But don't just stop publishing. Don't stop writing. Don't stop posting. That's just my main tip, because you don't want people to forget that or think you closed, because that's what they'll think. They'll think, oh, well, I'm sure she went out of business because the travel industry is like in shambles right now.
That's a great point.
It wouldn't be a bad assumption, honestly. So that's why you need to kind of, even if, and that's why I love what Joan is doing. Joan is like our poster child today. She is sending these great newsletters, and they're not about book travel now. There's not a big call to action. They're really like, here's some tips on things to do while you're in quarantine. Here's a cool book I read. Here's a great recipe. They're just really kind of fun little newsletters where she talks about travel, but it's not in a sales way. It's more like, it's just something nice to send people that they're going to enjoy reading, and you're going to stay in touch. And that's exactly what she should be doing. And that's what we all need to be doing.
And if you can write a short story about a success story with a client, that's entertaining. It's something someone will engage in because they themselves love traveling. They're interested in the concept. And now you told them a compelling story with all of those elements of a great narrative. Start me at the beginning, have a little tension and conflict. How did it get resolved? Don't leave me hanging. And then what does this all mean? You do that, and it's not marketing or sales. It's exactly what Joan is doing, but in a different way. She's just talking more about music and sites and food in a way that's engaging, and just keep engaging. Don't give up the ship.
Yes, that's the key right now. We're trying to make it through to the other side and really it's all about the relationships that you have with your clients right now. So what you want to do is maintain those relationships. And it's probably, you may pick up some new people that find you. That's possible. And it's amazing if you can do that. But the main goal is really just to maintain your existing relationships so that when you come out of this, you have a database of people that love you and still want to work with you.
And we're going to be talking about that as we get more confident about the upslope. We're going to talk about client scoring. So if you've not been communicating, if you're not getting people opening up emails, you're going to be at a disadvantage to scoring people based on their interest. And scoring takes those 50 clients who booked with you in the last 6 months or 12 months. Scoring now gets you down to 25 of them that you know are very specifically acting in some way that leads you to believe they'd be open to a marketing pitch. So if you're doing nothing, you're going to be working with a very blank canvas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you almost have to start over. So yeah, so that's just the most important thing is even if it's just once a month, make sure you send something to your list.
Yep. Great. Okay, stay in touch, everyone. You can reach us here in the comments section. You can email us.
You can email us.
You can private message us through the Travel Business Mastermind Facebook Messenger tool. However you want to get a hold of us, just let us know how things are going if you need any help. And we will see you on Friday. I have not come up with the activity yet, but it will be, it will definitely have wine involved.
We'll have to talk about that later. We have to make a plan. But bye, guys. I hope you have a good week.
Bye.